Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. As I've said numerous times when we've talked about the future of Call of Duty, specifically Call of Duty 2022, it seems like pretty much every single week we are getting some new leaks and some new rumors on the state of the game, what we can expect with it, and this week is no different. A few days back, the MW2 Ghost, who we've talked about on the channel previously, ended up talking about some brand new MW 2022 information regarding some map design decisions, some gameplay elements like the mini-map and whatnot. We've got quite a bit to break down today. As we go over it all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. News, updates, leaks, loadouts, you're gonna find it all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. Also, real quick, just a heads up, I do have a Discord server if you guys ever want to join it. It's a perfect place to stay up to date. Sometimes YouTube notifications are a bit wonky and don't always send out. The Discord always has notifications going out for new videos and everything there. Also, perfect place to connect with myself and other members of the community. Link for that will be down in the description below. I don't really promote it too much, but yeah, I do have one, and if you want to join it, feel free to do so. Now, when it comes to MW 2022, Call of Duty 2022, we have some pretty interesting information today. First things first, and as always, whenever we're talking leaks, whenever we're talking rumors, this stuff is definitely subject to change. Any gameplay, any information that's coming out now about MW 2022 that these insiders and leakers are seeing, it is a developmental build and very far from the final build. So these things can be changed, these things can be adjusted, they can be cut entirely. Only time is going to tell. So, take everything with a grain of salt. It's not 100% set in stone. But the first thing that the MW2 Ghost talked about was the movement. Now, we know for a fact that COD 2022 is being built on the same engine that Warzone 2 is going to be built on. And basically, it's like an upgraded version of what we saw in MW 2019. So it's going to have a very familiar feel to it, very familiar look to it, obviously enhanced in certain ways, but not something drastically different than what we've seen before. And the way that he described the movement on said engine was a little bit faster than what we had in Modern Warfare, but not as fast as Vanguard, which makes sense. Modern Warfare, especially going back and playing it recently to try and unlock the Vargo 52, certain weapons in that game, pretty much anytime you're not holding a pistol or an SMG, you do feel a little bit bogged down, a little bit heavy, whereas in Vanguard, you're kind of just flying all around. Even with the slide cancels in both games, the movement mechanics, there's a slight difference in the general speed, it seems like, and he describes it, like I said, faster than MW, not as fast as Vanguard. That to me sounds just fine. I'm more curious in how the TTK would play into that, not so much the movement speed, right? Because movement, regardless, is going to be there. It's going to be fine, especially off the MW engine, right? The TTK, though, is the main concern for that, but unfortunately, we don't have any new info on that as of right now. Ghost also talks a bit about the map design. He basically says the map design is going to be sort of similar to what we know from previous Infinity Ward games, traditional COD maps, but they also have various parkour elements to them, like a lot of the maps did in MW 2019 with the jump spots, which honestly I thought was really cool. There were a lot of different ways to maneuver around maps. They're still going to have that IW flair, and so they're going to be relatively familiar in that sense. Ghost also says that some of the DLC maps from MW 2019, so think Candor Hideout, think different maps like that, Oil Rig, so on and so forth. They're gonna have a style like that where the lighting is pretty solid. It's not just like the color tone of gray and brown and dark green like most of the MW maps had. Ghost also talked a little bit about doors. Again, this is something that could very easily change, but he said that from what he saw, doors were on a handful of the maps, but at the end result, come this fall when MW 2022 launches, they could just be open doorways that don't have an actual door attached to them. They could be doors that are open that you don't actually interact with. There's plenty of different changes that could be made here, but he did make a point that doors existed on some of the maps. And if you look back at MW 2019, we know all about the doors. There were a lot of them on a lot of different maps. They weren't really that appreciated by the vocal community. Obviously, people on social media, YouTube comments, Twitter, Twitch, whatever it may be. It seemed like those players weren't a huge fan of it just because, the whole it promotes camping agenda and whatnot. That was sort of the storyline with that. But they clearly worked for the whole safe spaces idea that drew in a lot of very casual players. So take that as you will. It's sort of up in the air as if that could be a final product or not. Doors or no doors, we're gonna have to wait and see. He also talked a bit about combat pacing, which personally I'm very excited for. Vanguard multiplayer, I think, is all right for what it is. It's not, you know, blowing me away with its new innovative features. It's also not the worst experience in the world. It's just, you know, fun for what it is, I'd say. But one of the things I especially do enjoy with Vanguard multiplayer is the combat pacing. Me personally, I love the chaos. I thrive in the chaos, right? So Blitz is by far the only thing I play when I'm in Vanguard multiplayer. I want the most players on the smallest maps just to have non-stop action, constant streaks, constant chaos. Like I said, I think that is fun, and that is Call of Duty to me. Other players, though, like to have the slower, more tactical or classic feel where it's, you know, 5-on-5 on a bit of a larger map, and you have to play a bit smarter. It's not just mindless spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die, right? So the combat pacing feature is perfect because you can play whatever map you like, but also still have that play style and that chaos level that you want. And I'd love to see that return back in MW 2022 because I do think that's one of the best things that Vanguard implemented into the series. Moving on, Ghost also talks a bit about some of the streaks. Again, this is something that could easily change. We could see things added, things removed. He talks some basic ones, the UAV, the Sentry, the Chopper Gunner. Those are pretty standard in most of the Modern Warfare or just Call of Duty games in general at this point. He also talked about a new streak called the Soundwave, apparently, which is like an EMP, but it's for audio. So as you know, in previous CODs, when you had an EMP kill streak, you call it in and it sort of gives players that fuzzy screen effect where visuals are a bit impaired. This would be for audio though. Perhaps you have like a ringing of some kind and footsteps and gunfire and directional audio is a bit messed up for 30-45 seconds. Could be a pretty interesting thing. Obviously, sounds like it'd be annoying to have used against, but it could be incredibly efficient in you know, hindering your enemies and getting some easy kills on them if you're using it correctly. So gonna keep my eyes, or I guess ears, out for that. Next up, probably the biggest tweet out of all these leaks and rumors that Ghost ended up putting out there. He talked about the minimap. He said, as of right now, from what he's seen and heard, the classic minimap is there. And classic minimap meaning when you shoot and you are not suppressed, you're showing up on the minimap as a red dot. Everyone's going to be able to see you. As we know, MW 2019 did not have the classic minimap, and that was one of the most controversial things about that game. Some players liked not having to constantly run a suppressor and they could use whatever they want without having to worry about showing up as that red dot. Other players did not like that it favored players who did not want to move and could use whatever they want and they wouldn't show up on the minimap. They wouldn't ever be exposed for camping or, you know, not playing all that aggressive, whatever the case may be. There was a lot of back and forth with the whole minimap discussion, but this is also something that could change. They might be testing the classic minimap right now. They're probably going to test having no red dots showing up on the minimap unless you have a UAV later on down the road, and whichever they decide is the better design decision, they're probably going to roll with. Hopefully by the time we see a potential playable alpha and public beta, we'll have some feedback and you know, a chance to give our input on that. But for what it's worth, I think that's good news for now that the classic minimap is there, and I truly hope it stays that way. We are going to have to see though. And then Ghost wrapped things up by saying that the game seems incredibly polished for being this early on into the year. And we've talked about this earlier on this week, actually, when we talked about all the good news for MW 2022 so far about how this game is already looking so much more ready for launch than all these previous CODs have in the past couple of years, because it's had that full dev cycle. It's had the actual attention it's needed prior to launch, so everything is finished, polished, and it's not going to be this buggy and wonky mess, right? Which was obviously what we've seen before in certain cases. So good news all around. I'm definitely curious to finally see some official gameplay and reveals about MW 2022. We're approaching the spring. That's usually the timeline for when that stuff starts to surface here and there. Of course, if and when anything official or potentially unofficial surfaces for COD 2022, you already know I'm going to be covering it right here on the channel. So stick it here for that and everything else going on in COD. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL for a discount on all Scuff, G Fuel, Gamer Advantage, and Control Freak products. And the links for all those can be found down in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.